Hey everyone, this will be a video on a little update about my folding utility knife. This is version 3. I made some updates to it and I believe this will be my last update. What I'm going to do instead is allow remixes, and I'm actually going to give you guys the step file and the Fusion 360 file so you can make changes and set your tolerances and stuff like that. I think I'm kind of getting bored with this design and I want to move on to the next thing. But I did make some changes that I think are pretty important design wise and safety wise. So I'm going to go through those real quick. If you need assembly instructions, they are on my previous version of the knives on MakerWorld. So you'll just have to go to my profile and go into the description of one of those first version knives, and I have a video in there how to assemble it. It's pretty easy, and honestly you'll be able to figure it out from this video. So okay, real quick, I just wanted to explain what I've done differently. So if I remove the lid here and I remove the, actually let's start on the outside. I increased the overall length of the knife by about 2 or 3 millimeters. And the reason I did that was to give more room for the spare knives. I increased the distance, the height-wise and the length-wise, so it's much easier to fit different types of blades in there. And of course I did that on each side. You can see how much more room is here. It's not as tight, so it prints a lot nicer. One other thing I did to this little blade holder, this would be really hard to show you on a real model, which is why I wanted to do it in Fusion, is you can see this kind of slants down. I beveled this down. That way you can, it's easier to get the knife out, because with the knife holder in, shoot, I don't have this set up to move really well. So let me just rotate this real quick so I can show you. So when this is out, you can see this blade gets kind of caught underneath this. So now what you can do is when you put your finger in here and lift it, this little sunken area gives it room to tilt up, so it's a lot easier to get the blade out. And again, I have done that on both sides, so it's sunken right here as well, and that makes quite a huge difference. One other change I made, probably one of the most important ones, at least for safety, is on the knife holder. I really beefed up this little pin here, so you can see right here, this is like this little circle that would be right here. That's what it used to be, and I did notice with enough pressure going down on the blade, this would just snap right off. But I have tripled the size almost, and with that I had to change. Oops, let me get to the lid. With that, I had to change this as well to accept that bigger pin. I also tightened up the tolerances on the length here, so when it opens now, so in previous, sorry, this is gonna be kind of cumbersome doing this in Fusion, but we're gonna get it. Let me rotate this. When this knife, wrong way, there we go. When you print this knife in previous versions, once it got out to here and the magnets were clicked into place, there was still a little wobble here. Basically what would happen is you would be able to move, you'd be able to move this knife holder. There'd be just like a little bit of wobble here, which the looser the tolerances are, the more apt it will be to fail, right? Because that give allows for more distortion, if that makes sense. So basically I shortened these so they don't go as far. Like, you know, if this is 180 degrees from, you know, here to here in a complete circle, I reduce this to maybe like 179 degrees or 178 degrees. And that way, once it gets to that 180 here across the line, this is locked in place tight. Now that does mean when you start putting it together, before you put the magnets in, it won't line up exactly right. You almost have to force it into this 180 degree position. But once you get the magnets in, it works perfectly. So I also reduced the size of this little tube or circle to give a better fit for the blade. So now it fits in there a lot nicer, but still holds it pretty firm. Let's see, what else? What other changes did I make? Okay, I beefed up the pivot. Let me do an analysis here. I beefed up this pivot pin right here, the male portion of the pivot, because I didn't want that to break off. So that's a lot stronger. And I believe the only other thing I did, you can see from the cutout section here, this blade isn't right in the middle, the knife. It actually is closer to this side than this side. And I found the direction I had it set up to open, your thumb would be on this larger size between the knife. And so your thumb or your finger had more of a chance to touch this blade. So now I changed the direction. So I think before in the old blade, it was turn it clockwise to open it and counterclockwise to close it. And now it's the opposite. You turn it counterclockwise to open it. And now your finger's on the back side of the blade. And even if it's on this side, the blade is so close to this wing here. I guess I'm calling this the lid. It's so close to this that your finger really doesn't come close to hitting the blade. So it's technically safer. We're gonna move these back. We don't need this. I think that is it. What did I cover here? I covered. Bring this back here. I covered increase size of the pin. Oh, okay. One other thing. So the reason I'm going to give. The reason I decided to give these fusion files and the step files away is because, oh, actually, let me backtrack a little. One other thing I did, which I thought was a pretty good idea, you can see in these magnet holes, there is a little recess. You can see how this goes a little further down. I think it's about 2, so from here to here is 1 layer line, so 0.2 millimeters. And so that way when you put glue or super glue in here and then press your magnet in, this little recess down here gives a place for that glue to go so it doesn't spill out over the sides. You still should use glue sparingly, but that just is kind of a little safety so you don't get super glue all over the place. And I did that on all the magnet holes. So I think that is it. I don't think there's anything else I need to say. If I didn't mention that in the beginning, I am going to give this fusion file away in the download so you can modify it yourself. In my version 2, I think it's version 2, I actually extended one of these wings out and made a keyhole or a key ring holder. And one of the versions I also put a belt clip on this, and I am not going to do it with this updated version with the design changes just because I don't feel like it. And so that's why I'm giving you these files so you can make those changes if you want. You can remix it. I'm gonna set remixes allowed, and so if you do make some changes to this, like adding a keyring holder or a belt clip or whatever, you can post it to Maker World. Just make sure you give me credit and give a link to my original file here, original download model. But there it is. This one works a lot better. I've printed a few out in PLA, and originally I thought this part, the knife holder, should be printed in PETG, because this right here is a spring, this little arm right here, and I thought maybe it would wear out. But PLA is actually fine. And so what I have found is that the PLA is harder because it doesn't have as much springiness, right? It's a lot stiffer, so it's harder to depress this to get the blade in. So that's kind of a downside, but I've used it enough in PLA where I don't think this will wear out. So printing in PLA is fine. The one positive to printing in PLA is this, this little knob right here that locks in at 180. I believe you get much better layer adhesion from PLA. So, when you're cutting down on the knife, all of the forces are going into this little thing right here that rides, that rides in this groove here. So you really want this part to be strong. So with PLA, I believe it's a lot stronger. And with PETG, this might break a lot easier. Same thing with the pivot. I was printing that in PETG, but again, I think PLA is really just fine. Of course, if it's going to be out in your shop or it's going to get hot or out in a truck, you wouldn't want any of this in PLA because it would deform in the heat. So one other thing I did notice, let me go back to my analysis. So my tolerances are pretty tight. I have, let's click on this and click on this. This is 0.1 millimeters allowance right here. So 0.1 millimeters. And then the allowance for this, I believe, is also 0.1 millimeters. Yep, 0.1 millimeters. And this might be a little, sorry, this is 0.15 millimeters here. So you want this to be really snug. You kind of want this pin to be as snug as you can get it, because the tighter it is, the less slop it is. I think the stronger it is. So if you print this and it's too loose or it's too tight, go in and tweak these tolerances a little bit until you get that perfect fit. Like I said, I like it to where I can still manually push these two pin pieces together, but I also have to kind of push a little hard, like I said, and I think that just helps with the strength. Same thing with the magnets. You should glue the magnets in, but so I guess you don't need super tight tolerances here, but change that to your magnet size. I ordered these are 6 millimeter by 2 millimeter. I have ordered probably like 6 different 6 millimeter by 2 millimeter magnets from different companies on Amazon, and they were almost all different sizes. Some were thicker, some were thinner, some were a little wider, smaller. So you really just have to buy some 6 millimeter by 2 millimeter and then size this, measure it and then size it. How it is right now, the files that you will download and print in my model, I will link to the magnets that fit perfectly for me. And that way what will fit here. But again, your filament might shrink more than mine, or it might shrink less. Your printer's tolerances might not be the same as mine, so my tolerances are going to be different than yours. The way I have it now works perfectly for me. It literally is a perfect fit. The blade fits in perfect, the magnets fit in perfect, everything fits in perfect. But that may not be the case for you. So if it is different for you, get in here and tweak your sizes. So, okay, now I'm rambling. I can't wait to see what you guys do with this knife. If you make any mods to it, please share it with me. Again, credit me, and thanks for watching.